Hello, my name is Jason and welcome to Best Binocular Reviews. In this video, I'm going to be showcasing some of the Digiscoping footage that I captured whilst testing this Kite APC 60 ED image stabilized spotting scope along with the Magview S1 Digiscoping adapter. And I'm going to start right now. When it comes to optics with image stabilization, I have found that the best way for me to convey just how effective it is, or in some cases is not, is for me to demonstrate it in action by taking video footage through the instrument, so digibinning with binoculars or digiscoping with a spotting scope. So before I even unboxed it, I knew that I was going to be doing at least some digiscoping with the Kite APC scope. However, with the scope, I quickly discovered that it became much more than just something that I had to do for the review. It became something that I really enjoyed doing, meaning that I have much more footage than normal. So because of this, I thought I would just showcase some of it in a video whilst I talk about the reasons why I enjoyed digiscoping with the Kite APC. Many of these, I think, make this scope an interesting choice for digiscoping. Now, as a slight proviso, I would be the first to admit that I am far from what I consider to be a digiscoping or photography expert. But I do have plenty of experience trying to get better using a lot of different scopes, binoculars, cameras and adapters, which I think does offer some weight to my thoughts. So in terms of the image quality, for a relatively small scope, in general I found both the image quality and brightness to be excellent. The color reproduction is vibrant, but at the same time it remains true to life. Image sharpness, once you get the camera properly aligned with the ocular lens and you're correctly focused in on the subject, the image, as you can see, remains sharp right from the center of the view to the edges, with very minimal vignetting right around the edges of the view. Color fringing, this is a big one. The level of color fringing along the edges of contrasting objects is extremely minimal. In terms of the ease of use as a scope for digiscoping, once again, for a small scope, I found digiscoping relatively easy, especially at the lower magnification settings. You know, this scope has a good amount of eye relief. I think it ranges from 18 to 17 millimeters, depending on the zoom level that you have the eyepiece set at. It also has an excellent quality twist-up eye cup, both of which mean you can get your camera set at the ideal distance behind the ocular lens in order to get a full field of view. Digiscoping at the minimum 17 times magnification is the easiest, as the reasonably large exopupil, 3.5 millimeters, at the setting, supplies your camera with a decent amount of available light and is large enough to fairly easily line up your camera with that exopupil. However, as you increase that magnification, it does get progressively more and more difficult. And I have to say that at the maximum 35 times zoom setting, the relatively small 1.7mm exopupil is challenging for the camera, both in terms of image brightness and lining it up with that actual exopupil. So for long-range digiscoping, and especially when using higher magnifications in very low light conditions, whilst yes, it is still possible to use the scope, but it is quite a bit more difficult to get a decent image than, say, for example, you had a larger scope that not only captures more light, but will produce a larger exopupil at equivalent magnifications. So one of the biggest aspects obviously about the scope is the handheld stability and how it affects how you would use it when digiscoping. So before using the scope, I would have said that to get any sort of a usable, half-decent digiscoped image or video, you would almost certainly have to have it mounted on something stable. So something like a tripod or at the very least a monopod, in order to get the view steady enough. With the Kite APC 60 ED, the image stabilization is so effective that it is definitely possible to take pretty decent handheld digiscope footage that I feel is usable as is, but which you can then go on and stabilize even further in post-production if you wish. Now here I will admit that it is still easier to use a tripod, mostly to take the weight off your arm and to free up a hand. However, there are times when shooting directly from the hands really was an advantage. Firstly, it allowed me to be far more spontaneous with my digiscoping, as I did not have to plan beforehand and carry my tripod wherever I went. And because of this, I just simply did much more digiscoping as a result. Indeed, I'll even go on to say that I think I captured some of my best ever digiscoping footage with the scope when I was just sitting outside on the veranda talking to my family one afternoon. So what basically happened was the birds just got bored of waiting for us to leave the area. And because of this, and because I had the scope and my phone with me at the time, I was able to get some really nice close-ups with some perfect lighting. So I could see uses like capturing some moving objects being much easier with the hands. So airplane spotters, for example, this scope would be really fun to take along to an air show or even some sporting events. Here once again, I found that the included mini-pod was very useful. Firstly, from the hands, it is much easier to hold onto the scope with it attached. I also found myself often using the monopod to take the weight off by simply resting it onto a tabletop or even the arm of a chair, which just adds even more stability to your setup. So in conclusion, yes, I would still say that for digiscoping, a high quality, large 80 or even 100mm spotting scope mounted onto a tripod would be the ideal, especially at longer distances and or in challenging light conditions. But I do feel that the versatility that the stabilization adds, combined with the portability and overall excellent image quality of this 60mm scope, does make it an interesting option. And therefore, just like my favorite compact binoculars, this is probably the scope that I would reach for and bring along with me most often. And so, because I almost always also have my phone with me, and you can keep the Magview adapter attached to the eyepiece, this would be the scope that I would end up doing the most digiscoping with. Right, okay, so there you have it. I do hope you found this of both use and of interest. Before you go, I just want to mention that please do keep an eye or a lookout for the full review which I'm currently working on and which will be published both on the BBR website and this YouTube channel in the not too distant future. The links to which I'll put down below. Also, and as always, if you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, or whatever, please feel free to use the comment section down below and I'll do my very best to get back to you. So once again, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you again next time. Cheers for now.